There is a particular sadness in the eyes of children who never got to be children. You can see it. A heaviness, an old soul trapped in a young body. These are the kids who learned to read the room before they learned to read books, who became fluent in adult emotions before they could even name their own. Picture a 7-year-old girl standing in the kitchen at midnight, making sandwiches for her younger siblings because mom is working a double shift and dad left years ago. Or imagine a 10-year-old boy sitting outside his parents' bedroom door, listening to them fight, calculating in his mind whether tonight is the night everything falls apart. These children do not play pretend. They are too busy living in a reality that demands they become someone they are not ready to be. Growing up too fast does not happen all at once. It happens in small moments that accumulate like stones in a backpack. It is the first time a child comforts a crying parent instead of the other way around. It is the birthday party that never happens because money is tight and no one wants to explain why. It is learning to smile through pain because showing vulnerability might burden someone else. These children become experts at survival. They develop an uncanny ability to anticipate needs, to mediate conflicts, to shrink themselves to make room for everyone else's problems. They become the family therapist, the peacekeeper, the responsible one. And while the world might praise them for being mature for their age or so responsible, no one stops to ask what they lost in the process. The truth is, when childhood is cut short, something fundamental breaks. There is a developmental timeline written into our DNA, a sequence of stages where we are supposed to learn trust, explore boundaries, make mistakes in safe spaces, and gradually build our sense of self. But for these children, that timeline gets scrambled. They skip chapters they can never get back, downloading adult consciousness into a system that isn't ready for it. What does it feel like to carry responsibilities that outweigh your age? It feels like wearing shoes 5 sizes too big and pretending they fit. Feels like knowing too much and feeling too much all the time. When a child is forced to grow up too fast, they do not just lose their childhood, they build a fortress around themselves. This armor is invisible but impenetrable, constructed from hypervigilance, perfectionism, and an overwhelming need to control everything around them. Let me tell you about emotional intelligence in these children, because it is both their superpower and their curse. They can read a room like a psychologist with decades of training. They notice the slight tension in your voice, the way your smile does not quite reach your eyes, the shift in energy when someone walks into the room. They have had to develop this radar for survival, because in unstable environments, missing the signs could mean emotional or even physical danger. But here is the painful irony. While they are exceptionally attuned to everyone else's emotions, they have become strangers to their own. They have spent so long managing other people's feelings that they have forgotten they are allowed to have their own. Anger gets suppressed because it might make things worse. Sadness gets hidden because someone else always seems to be suffering more. Joy feels dangerous because when you let your guard down, that is when life tends to strike. These children become masters of compartmentalization. They create different versions of themselves for different situations. The capable one at home, the perfect student at school, the friend who always has it together. They perform these roles so convincingly that even they start to believe the act. But underneath, there is a lonely child screaming, "When do I get to rest? When does someone take care of me?" The need for control becomes their coping mechanism. If they can just keep all the plates spinning, if they can anticipate every problem, manage every crisis, then maybe, just maybe, they can prevent the chaos from consuming them. But control is an exhausting illusion. You cannot control other people's addictions, mental health struggles, or decisions. Yet they keep trying, keep believing that if they are just good enough, responsible enough, perfect enough, everything will be okay. This hyper-responsibility creates a paradox. They are incredibly capable and simultaneously terrified of failure. Because failure does not just mean making a mistake. It means someone might get hurt, abandoned, or lost. Now fast forward. These children grow into adults who look successful on paper but feel fraudulent on the inside. They are often high achievers, the ones who get promoted early, who everyone relies on, who seem to have their life together. But success doesn't heal the wound. It just decorates it. Relationships become their greatest challenge. When you grew up being the caretaker, you wire yourself to believe that your value comes from what you provide, not from who you are. So these adults enter relationships with an unspoken transaction already in place. I'll take care of you, anticipate your needs, solve your problems, and in return, please do not leave me. They choose partners who need fixing because that's the dynamic they understand. They mistake being needed for being loved. Intimacy terrifies them. True intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability means taking off that armor they have worn since childhood. It means letting someone see the messy, needy, imperfect parts. But when you spent your childhood believing that your needs were a burden, showing them to another person feels like handing them a weapon. They struggle with rest. Their nervous system has been programmed for crisis mode, always scanning for threats, always ready to respond. Even in moments of peace, they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Relaxation feels irresponsible. Pleasure feels undeserved, that they have internalized the belief that they must earn the right to simply exist. Many develop anxiety disorders, depression, or complex PTSD. Their body keeps the score of all those years of stress, all those nights worrying about things no child should worry about. They might experience chronic tension, insomnia, digestive issues, physical manifestations of the psychological burden they've carried. Yet there is also profound strength in these individuals. They possess resilience that has been forged in fire. They have empathy that runs deeper than most, creativity born from having to solve impossible problems, and a capacity for compassion that comes from knowing what it feels like to suffer alone. The question isn't whether they are broken. The question is, can they learn that being whole doesn't require being perfect? Can they discover that they are worthy of care, not because of what they do, but because of who they are? Healing from a childhood that ended too soon is not about getting back what was lost. That's impossible. It is about grieving what should have been while building what can still be. It's about reparenting yourself, teaching the adult to give the inner child what they never received. The first step is often the hardest, acknowledging the loss. Our culture loves to celebrate resilience, to praise people who overcame difficult childhoods. But before you can truly heal, you must allow yourself to feel the anger, the sadness, the unfairness of it all. You were a child. You deserve to be protected, not to be the protector. You deserve to make messes, to be selfish sometimes, to take without giving. Acknowledging this isn't self-pity, it is self-honesty. Therapy, particularly trauma-informed approaches, can help rewire the nervous system. It teaches you that the world isn't always unsafe, that you do not have to control everything, that other people's emotions are not your responsibility. It helps you identify where your boundaries should be and gives you permission to enforce them without guilt. Learning to play again becomes essential. This might sound silly, but these adults often need to relearn how to do things purely for joy, without purpose or productivity. Dancing in your kitchen, coloring, building something with no goal in mind. These aren't frivolous activities, they are reclamation projects, taking back the spontaneity and wonder that was stolen. Connection with others who understand is transformative. Finding communities of people who grew up too fast, sharing stories, realizing you are not alone. This breaks the isolation that shame creates. You start to see that your coping mechanisms made sense, that you did what you had to do to survive, and that survival mode can finally be turned off. The journey is long and nonlinear. There will be days when old patterns resurface, when you catch yourself over-functioning in relationships or dismissing your own needs. But slowly, something shifts. You start to believe that your worth isn't conditional. You learn that asking for help isn't weakness. You discover that rest is productive, that imperfection is human, that you can be loved for simply being, not just for doing. The child who grew up too fast can finally learn to be the adult who knows how to receive care, not just give it.